This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Welcome, listeners, to Postcards from the Edge. I'm your host, Amy Nelson, and with me again this week is Mike Morrison from Metatrex. Mike, thanks for coming back.
Hey, thank you for inviting me back. It's great to be back on Postcards. I've really enjoyed talking about Star Trek Discovery, and thanks again for the invitation.
Well, I'm glad we didn't scare you off. But I knew you were going to come on for this episode. And so the whole time I was watching Discovery, I was like, oh my gosh, Mike is going to definitely include this episode in your philosophies for the season, because like the whole identity just screamed at me. Yeah,
it was a very prevalent theme in the episode as a whole. I do have to be honest, though, and say, in terms of the storytelling of this episode, it fell just a little flat for me. It seemed a little disjointed. The flow of the overall story, I don't think was as strong as some of the previous episodes. And so in regards to that alone, it fell just a little bit flat. But it did have a very strong philosophical context. I think that there was a lot of content in there for somebody who's really interested in things like identity. Ethics was huge in this episode because there was this whole debate about whether or not Michael Burnham should be able and willing and allowed to sacrifice herself in order to trap the Red Angel. So I found that very interesting. It was kind of an interesting take on sort of this ethical play that's going on in terms of what's right and wrong as far as how they're dealing with the Red Angel. So lots of interesting stuff there to kind of unpack philosophically for sure.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to hear when you finally get around to that on Metatrex. Well, today we are going to discuss the fan response to Season 2, Episode 10, The Red Angel. If you would like to participate and share your response, please post your comments on the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Type Babel, B-A-B-E-L, into the search field, and it will come right up. As of the time of this recording, there are 457 comments, which is a 9% increase from last week. Mike, they're getting more and more.
Yeah, that's crazy. And thank you so much, Bishay, for your thread.
We are not thanking him. He's getting a scolding from Miss Nelson. Really? One word comments.
Shout out to Brandon Shea Mutala. That was incredibly mischievous of you.
So, Brandon, this is the reason why it's 457 and not 447. Oh, my goodness. No, really, thank you, listeners. The comments are all great, and you're going to see what people said. So, Mike, you sort of shared your a little bit of your philosophical thoughts, but so tell us some more. Like, how did you feel about the whole Spock and Burnham going on with that?
You know, that was actually, in my opinion, the real highlight of this episode. I really enjoyed that kind of intimate one-on-one conversation that they had. I think that Sonequa Martin Green killed it in that in that scene. The way she exhaled and let the weight of this emotional burden that she's been carrying just kind of lift from her, and the forgiveness and, coming together and putting sort of this past animosity that they had behind them, and just appreciate one another as a brother and sister. I thought that scene is, in terms of the episode story, was just the highlight of the whole thing. It was wonderful.
Yeah, there was really some good dialogue, because I enjoyed that as well. And I also like Cornwell and Culber, that whole conversation. And I think we've got one of the comments, that love is a choice, and that it's not just once. We have to make it all the time, almost every day that we're making this choice. And, you don't start a new path until you walk it. And I was like, oh my gosh, just the writers on this are so amazing. Really good.
That was such a strong scene in terms of, I've been for 25 plus years a bivocational pastor, and I have counseled with many, many, many people over the years who have gone through, let's just call them identity crisis. They have a conflict or something that happens in their life that causes them to question their life choices, that causes them to question their faith. I myself have encountered in my life these kind of crisis of faith where the things that I believe are brought into question and kind of unpacked and sorted through. And I see that going on with Culber. And the thing that I really appreciated about that scene is I have had conversations with soldiers returning from war and people who have gone through trauma, through the loss of a loved one, and they have expressed similar things to me, that, the things that I used to love or the things that I used to appreciate, I just can't anymore. And I've talked to soldiers coming back from war who have said, I'm having a hard time connecting with my family. And I really appreciated this scene because I thought it was solid. And it wasn't just the storytelling, it was the dialogue and the truth that was packed in that little scene that I thought was so great. So I just want to say to anyone out there who is going through a traumatic situation or has gone through a traumatic situation and you've got lots of questions, that's a great scene to just sit down and watch and just listen to what she says to him, because there's a lot of truth packed into what she said. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get to the fan response. So, Mike, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Aaron Eichler says, all I can say is amazing twist. I like the turmoil that Michael went through after Tilly said that she was the Red Angel. With her hitting Leland and to a comforting word Spock gave her, the real shock was when the angel was unmasked that Tilly was wrong.
Yeah, I didn't even make the connection that would imply that Tilly was wrong. So interesting, Aaron, to say it that way, I guess.
I said as I was watching this first time through on Thursday evening, my daughter and my wife were sitting there with me. I said, no, that's too easy. That can't be right. Something's not right here. They would never reveal that at the beginning of the episode. So just get ready, guys, for a twist. And I was right.
Very good. Well, Mark Keller says, hi, guys. Well, I was certainly surprised. I guess we were all wrong about who the Red Angel was. Still, I had a funny feeling in the beginning of the episode that there was going to be a twist, just like you mentioned, Mike. And Mark continues, also, it's interesting that the AI used control as a tool rather than the AI was actually control. Still, I'm guessing there will be a few twists yet to come. Well, Mark, yes, there will definitely be, I'm sure, more twists. We still have 4 more episodes to go.
Chris Trebuzio said, okay, first watch response. Number 1, who jumped and screamed at the AI and said, I knew it, when it was said about Burnham being the Red Angel? The death march Burnham took. In those moments, I put myself in her shoes and started thinking, has what I've done in my life always for the greater good of myself or others? Which to me had to be what she was thinking. This tends to the Burnham characteristic of sacrifice. Either that or I've got to be nuts doing this, but there's no turning back now. Number 3, how many of you felt just like me at the end and had the perplexed look on our faces at the true reveal? All great questions.
Yeah, definitely. So, Chris, you're going from your 3 words to 3 thoughts. Is this what you're doing, sir? I have to give him a hard time. We're good friends.
I will say that the reveal was really interesting, and I've got to be honest. At first, there was just this shot of her kind of looking up from the ground, and for just a split second, I really thought that was Giorgio. I thought she looked Asian. And I totally thought, "Oh my gosh, it's Giorgio," which that was one of my theories. And when she said "Mom," I was like, "What?"
No, I was the same as you, and I know a couple other people have messaged me, and they were like, "Yeah, I thought it was Giorgio at the beginning, but yeah, because there was that Asian and influence, and there wasn't really good lighting. It wasn't a spotlight on her, Right. So it's like your mind is going through all everyone's predictions, and so it's like, is it her? Is it her? Is it her? So
who is it? Who is it? Who is it?
Yeah. Oh, Eric Schmidt says, love the twist. Ethan Peck is a wonderful Spock. I think he outacted Quinto already. His scenes were my favorite. The Culber stuff worked great. All superb character moments. Awesome episode. Well, Eric, thank you for your comments. And I don't know, I still love Zachary Quinto, but Ethan Peck is absolutely hitting it out of the ballpark.
Ethan Peck's killing it. I definitely agree with that. I have seen a lot of criticism about his portrayal, and I don't think the criticism is fair for Ethan Peck's portrayal. At least the criticism that I've seen, I think should be more towards the writing of Spock. But I think what a lot of people forget is this is a younger Spock. This is a young, ambitious Lieutenant Spock, not the Spock of TOS, not the Spock of the movie eras, and certainly not the Spock that we see in TNG and the latter movie era. So I think that if there's any criticism, it should be for the writing, but it's really kind of unfair because this is a much younger Spock. This is years before the original series, and I think that we're going to see a Spock who doesn't necessarily have his emotions in check. He is a bit more ambitious. He is a bit more hot-headed. He is a bit more inquisitive, and I think we're seeing that. I actually love this younger kind of hothead iteration of Spock, if you can call Vulcan a hothead. I've enjoyed watching both Ethan Peck's portrayal and the way they're writing the character. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. We're getting Spock before we know him as the logical, like TOS, and I especially know him from TNG, where he's completely different. And so, but that just adds to who he is as a character. And I think even Karen Chuplis mentioned that we need to go watch where no one has gone before, because here, he's like, she pointed out that Spock is, just fire happy and, reaches for his pistol and just sort of going with the emotions a little bit more than what we tend to view him as.
Yeah. I'm 48 years old. I'm certainly not the same person I was at 38. Over those 10 years, I've mellowed. My wife and I have been a couple for over 25 years, celebrating our 25th anniversary in June. And she tells me all the time,
congratulations.
Thank you so much. She tells me all the time, you have so mellowed in life. And I used to be very, very quick and with my emotions, and I was a bit of a hothead. And as I've gotten older, I'm so chill. And she's the one now that gets worked up really easily. So I think we got to take that into consideration with this iteration of Spock, that he's not going to be the Spock of TOS or the movie era. This is going to be, think of him as teen Spock, if you will. This is young Spock. It's fantastic. Brian Diggs says, haha, extremely pleased that we had some much needed diversity by having Saru sing a Kelpian song as a eulogy. But so much happened after that, it became like number 44 of the best moments of this episode.
I can see in Brian's, list, like, oh yeah, Saru singing. And then as the episode goes, it just keeps dropping because there's so many good moments.
I'm not sure if Doug Jones actually did that singing.
He did. He put it out on Twitter.
I missed that.
And so he said that he sang it and then he did the lip syncing during the takes of it. But it is his voice.
Doug Jones, man, hats off to you. That was absolutely, you are a man of many, many, many surprises. That was wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, it was very good. All right. Mikey Long Chadwick says, that was bonkers, amazing, but bonkers. I also need every outfit from this episode. And Mikey, I agree. I'm like, oh, I want to cosplay this. And I think there was another listener who commented about Commander Non and her dress uniform as well. And yeah, there's a lot of that workout outfit that Burnham had. And
yeah, I agree. My daughter has commented several times, especially Michael's kind of away mission outfit that she wore in the last couple of episodes. My daughter is like, I want that.
Yeah. So listeners, I am not going to be on the main show. So I'm going to sort of input my little questions and comments throughout. Yay, surprise. So talking about the outfits, Mike, why was Spock not in a uniform?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have been asking the same question. He should be in a uniform, but I can say that he's A, not on his ship, and B, has he been returned to duty? I think that's still a big question.
Because he's been
here.
Cleared.
Yeah. He's cleared.
We know he's been cleared.
He's been cleared for duty, but has he actually returned to duty? I don't know. I hope that we get Spock in a uniform. And hopefully it's one of the really cool Enterprise style uniforms that we saw Pike in at the beginning of the season.
Well, I guess if he goes back to the Enterprise, then yes, but he should be in a Discovery one.
So you want Spock Discovery uniform?
Well, I just really noticed it this episode. And then also Culber. Like, why was he wearing a black button-down shirt and a black jacket? I mean, like, there was a comment and someone was like, looks like he's going wine tasting or something, or, to a wine bar or something. And I was like, yeah, how come? I know why he's not in a uniform, but it just seemed so business casual, going out. I don't know.
I thought if they'd added a gold medallion, he would have been like Disco Culber.
Yeah. Get the gold link chain. And I don't know. But those two outfits I did notice throughout the episode.
I thought the choice for Culber wearing the button-down shirt, I thought looked a little bit too in our time. I don't think it had enough of a future feel to it. So that kind of didn't work for me. But I'm rather partial to the white uniforms that the medical officers wear. I think those are super sharp. And
yes.
I can't wait to get him back in a white uniform where he belongs. Chris Foster says, I really enjoyed the scene in engineering between Georgiou and Stamets. It's nice to see someone being sex positive and challenging social norms sometimes. Her relaxed attitude flusters the buttoned up Starfleet types. It made me grin because it also made for good humor. P.S. So many meme or GIF worthy moments in this one scene. Stop talking. You do know that he's gay, right? Don't be so binary. We had DEF CON level fun together. Did you just call me Poppy? What just happened? There was a lot of great little one-off lines in that scene. It was funny. I thought myself that there was a lot of similarity between Georgiou's character and Mirror Universe Kira from Deep Space Nine. I thought that was kind of interesting. The big similarities between those two characters.
Yeah, definitely some meme moments there. What just happened? And yeah, we saw some Tilly. She's amazing. And Josh Truax continues sort of in that same thread and said, I had a mixed reaction to that scene myself. On the one hand, the way the writers set it up by having Culber drop in out of the blue seemed forced. On the other hand, its delivery by Yo, Cruz, and Rapp was pure gold. And Josh, I really have to agree with you. It really just seemed like, okay, Culber, why are you there? But then the scene that happened because of it was pure gold. Yeah.
Yeah. Ewan Cruikshank says, loved it. So happy with the Red Angel twist. Didn't call it, and also glad it didn't turn out to be Michael.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone was thinking Michael's mother. There were people that was saying Amanda, but not Michael's biological mother.
Yeah. It just seemed too easy to me. So I thought it was a great twist, and I thought they took it in a direction that was very unexpected.
Yes. Simon Beasley writes, OMG, what a freaking episode. If this episode and cast don't win any awards, I'd be very surprised. I don't know how they keep making each episode better than the last. I've just finished watching and I'm about to watch it all again. What a ride. Oh, and this episode got me right in the feels. So many emotional moments. Well, Simon, thank you for your comment. Definitely one to watch and rewatch.
For sure.
So much going on. Yeah.
For sure. Daniel Murdoch says, okay, I usually try to pick the one scene that keeps coming back to me. The one that kicked my butt. Really hard with this one. But the scene with Michael and Spock in the gym, wow. As an old TOS guy, that was the moment Peck became Spock for me. My wife mentioned he should hug her, but that was a Spock hug. He gave her the emotional support she desperately needed from him, as only Spock can. He really understands his character. Yeah, I shed a tear. Honorable mention goes to the scene with Saru and Leland. Saru's lines and attitude would have fit Riker to a T. Completely believable first officer. Doug Jones is definitely the unsung hero of this episode for sure.
Yes. Maribel Myers writes, I love the episode and was so glad that Michael wasn't the Red Angel since it was the prevailing theory. Tilly's awkwardness seemed forced. Spock was sublime. I think the Klingon War, Mirror Universe, Arium dying, Michael dying, these people need therapy. Where's Troy? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Oh, and Cornwell, is she going to stay on the ship forever and take up her post and be counselor instead of admiral?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
That's a great question for sure. Jim Stoffel says the identity reveal was surprisingly good. I guessed it was going to be Amanda, like you said earlier. So I just guessed the wrong mom. I really love Spock's and Michael's continuing relationship. Ethan Peck is just killing it as young Spock. Burnham almost dying was so intense. She is my favorite character in Trek since DS9, and Sonequa is such a great actress. And that scene with Georgiou, Culber, and Stamets was so funny. Georgiou is such a great evil character, trying to throw everything and everyone off their game with either humor or sarcasm. And Tilly continues to shine. As an adult who suffers from anxiety and has ADHD, I totally get her character. She might even suffer from Asperger's. And that funeral scene brought tears to my eyes. Another great episode. I agree completely. The funeral scene was remarkable. And I've heard a lot of criticism about the disconnect that existed, at least in the minds of some, with Arium being a character that wasn't really developed over the course of many episodes and trying to force this emotional connection in the episode in which she dies. And I understand where fans are coming from. However, this isn't the first time that we've taken a character and developed that character quickly, and then kill that character off. I think about There were characters in DS9 that we only got 1 or 2 episodes with, and then they died. We've had the same thing in the original series. We've had the same thing happen in Next Generation. So this isn't anything new. I think my only regret is that we didn't get to know her better. However, I think they did a great job developing that connect with this character in one singular episode, and it really made that funeral scene that much tougher for me to watch. And it was definitely surreal.
It was really interesting because, as people know, I'm a TNG girl, but that funeral scene reminded me, and you'll have to help me, Mike, the movie where Scotty's nephew, is it?
I think that's correct.
Dies, and they have that little funeral. I think it's in the deleted scenes or in the movie. I can't remember, but it really reminded me of that. Like, here's a character, and the reason that funeral scene was there was to progress Scotty's character, and to give him motive and purpose, because he lost someone personal to him. And I sort of feel like Airiam's death is that way. Like, the reason that we saw Airiam's death was to further Burnham's story. We know this is a story about Michael Burnham. So I sort of took it from that perspective.
The thing that I really appreciate about how they handled this is the way that it brought Commander Non and Michael together. It forged a bond between them, an appreciation for one another that I hope writers will carry forward in subsequent episodes and develop over the course of the next 3 or 4 episodes. And who knows, maybe Commander Non sticks around for season 3 and we get to see that develop even more. But I see a bond developing, a friendship that I think could have the potential to be a Spock-Kirk type friendship between these 2 women.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike,
Very
great
cool.
point. Yeah. Well, Tim Robertson writes, loved this episode. Interesting to see the actress Sarah Middich as Lieutenant Nilsson back at her old post again without the makeup. Loving the interplay between Michael and Spock. Real brother-sister thing going on there. Tilly's "What Just Happened" was perfect timing. The only negative thought that I came away with was the term time crystal. I thought, come on, Star Trek, we needed a techier tech name for it. Then I Googled it. The idea of space-time crystal was first put forward by Frank Wilczek, a professor at MIT and Nobel laureate in 2012. Felt the tension when Michael was dying, then Mommy showed up. That was a surprise. So is Leland really, really dead? And if he is, who killed him? An AI? So, Tim, thank you for your comment. Yeah, the time crystal, people, I think, were at first wondering what in the heck is going on. Marvel Universe was thrown out there, but there is actual science to it. And there were a couple people, Tim mentioned it, and you just Google time crystals and it's real life science.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as the questions about Leland, personally, I think Leland's getting an eye patch, and it's just gonna make him more intimidating as a character. That's my theory. But I did really enjoy watching Burnham smack him around. That was fun to watch.
Yes, very needed.
For sure. Zainab Amadahe says, I don't particularly enjoy all the long, sad, teary scenes this season. Still, great character moments in this episode. Admiral Cornwell to Leland when he announces Section 31 has a solution. I'm cringing. Saru going head-to-head with Leland. Non clearly conflicted over her role in Airiam's death. Cornwell counseling Culber that love is a choice. Tilly wondering what just happened. Spock confessing he would have enjoyed seeing Burnham punch out Leland. I love that scene too. I love that we were witnessing a softening of Giorgio, but someone set that nasty trap for Leland, and she's the prime suspect. I want to know what happened with Burnham and Tyler when we left them alone in his quarters. I have my thoughts.
Yeah. Yes, all great points. And just so good. But you talk about Zanab, that Georgiou set up the trap for Leland, and that she might be the party for killing or dismembering his eye. I don't know, but I didn't even think about that until your comment. So thank you.
Yeah, I think she could be a prime suspect. However, I think it's just this AI. I think they're setting up what could really possibly be the underlying villain of this season, and that is this pesky AI that exists here in Discovery. So I think that's probably going to be the setup, although I think there's definitely a case to be made because Georgiou is definitely gunning for him a little bit. I do, just like you, Zanab, I appreciate the softening of Georgiou's character. I thought it was really interesting the way she's very protective of Michael. I found that to be really kind of unexpected, and really I think that they're making a little bit of an ambiguity with her character to bring her into this Section 31 series where, you know, she's not a villain, but probably an anti-hero type character. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So Tony Salazar says, "Aye, Poppy, what's the deal with Georgiou's interest in Culber, business or personal? I have a sneaking suspicion he'll end up leaving Discovery for Section 31 by the end of the season." So that whole interchange, Tony's taken it that it's a little job interview for Section 31.
We shall see.
Yep.
He definitely would fit in the rogues gallery of Section 31. Brett Williams says, "I love that they so matter of fact told us who the Red Angel is, and it matched more expectations than whoosh. Haha, tricked you. It was really well done. Fun expectation. Mom comes from the timeline where the Klingons did not kill them, obviously. So Michael did not go to Vulcan and get all ate by a Vulcan Sarlacc. So the angel has been Michael. When Michael killed herself, Mom came back and saved her. I mean, it's so obvious. Just mix a ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff and fixed." Love the Doctor Who reference there, Brett.
Yes, it's definitely going around with this time travel. It's, yes, the grandfather paradox, I think Spock called it, right?
Allons-y.
Well, let's get to the segment I like to call Bits and Pieces. All right. So, Mike?
Yeah, Justin Ozer. Fun fact, Discovery Makeup Department head James McKinnon, who also worked on TNG, DS9, and 2009, had a cameo in this episode. I missed that, Justin. I'll have to go back and look for it.
Yeah, he was the doctor when they were at the very beginning when they were looking at whose body was on the table. Ariam's?
I think it was Ariam's, yes.
Yeah. So he's there. So thanks, Justin. Brian Yates says, "Technology leaps may be due to time travel. Was that a Voyager Future's End reference?" And Chris Foster asks, "Could also reference the invention of transparent aluminum from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and the assistance given to Zephyr Cochrane by the Enterprise E from, of course, First Contact." And I think it was Tim posted a little video clip of the Janeway saying that technology leaps may be due to time travel. And so, yeah, I think that was a definite reference to Voyager.
Yeah, definitely a callback to that episode of Voyager for sure. Janessa Chiharda says, "IKEA apparently still exists in the 23rd century. That's an IKEA Dalactig couch in Tyler's quarters. I love Georgiou's 'Don't be so binary.' And that entire conversation about prime Stamets versus mirror Stamets gives a boost to the idea how Sulu could be straight in the prime universe, but gay in the Kelvin timeline. Also, I understand from a casting and story decision to put Culber back on duty, it gives him a routine to focus on rather than his own situation. However, it makes me wonder if Dr. Pollard and the rest of the medical department were on an extended lunch break. Good point.
Yeah. So I guess IKEA is around in the 23rd century, so we can all breathe a little easier.
It's good to know.
And Janessa, I liked your point about the different universes and then making the connection to Sulu. So that was interesting, I thought, as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think in the next episode, the Swedish meatballs from IKEA should make an appearance in the episode.
Oh, we need those.
That would just totally confirm.
Yes. Okay. We have Suman Dwan says, that is one big crew at Arim's funeral. Are there that many people aboard Discovery? Justin Ozer Answers says, it was mentioned in season 1 that Discovery has 136 crew members. It looked like the number in the shuttle bay for the funeral was more than that, but I think it's reasonable that the number of crew increased at some point for the mission this season. Memory Alpha assumes this means there are now over 200 crew members. So interesting. I noticed there were a lot of people there for Arim's funeral.
Yeah.
So great to point that out, Suman.
Yep, good point. Maybe they need all those people to fill the void where the turbo lifts are kind of doing their thing. I don't know. It's possible.
Oh.
Brandon Shea Mutala says, I wanted to point out something that I really loved in this episode. Hanley Culpepper's directing of the turbo lift scene at the start of the episode between Burnham and Tyler was really well done. I've never seen a two-person scene directed in that manner. Having them look towards each other, but having the editing make it look like they were looking away from each other added to the sense of separation between them. I really loved that choice. Very unique. Good eye, Bishay.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. And Brandon and I actually had the opportunity to interview Hannah Lee, and that is on The Edge 53, if you'd like to go back and listen to that when she directed an episode in season 1.
I'll have to go back and watch that or listen to that. I've not had a chance to listen to that. She's wonderful and just brilliant.
I was so glad to see that she was directing this episode.
That's awesome.
Jess Irwin writes, I've always identified with Spock being autistic. I have never been as emotionally affected by my circumstances as those around me have. I've always been able to logic my way through things. My partner tells me to put on your pointy ears when we need to problem solve. But when Spock said, completely without judgment, perhaps you simply have a penchant for the dramatic, I saw an experience I've had so many times. So interesting. I love how people are relating to the characters in Discovery.
Yeah, all of them are very relatable, but, and I think I said this before the last time I joined you here on Postcards, that small writing choice for Spock, I think added so much dimension to his character. And really overall, I think it just honors the character. I think it honors, and so much of Leonard is in the character of Spock, and I think it honors Leonard and his portrayal. And I just have to say kudos to the writers and kudos to Ethan Peck. Nicole Park, Tilly, and Unapologetic Apologetic. I love that. That's great. I have some thoughts on Tilly's character and her portrayal and development that I've always wanted to share for months now. I don't believe that Tilly is being written poorly or her character is missing the mark in humor. She is socially awkward and in many circumstances doesn't realize it. Any humor that comes from her is not at all intentional. If it makes you laugh, great. If not, and you cringe, then it's another awkward moment. I know Mary Wiseman isn't intentionally playing Tilly as someone with autism, but as a woman on the spectrum myself, I see myself in Tilly so strongly, oversharing, super nervous around authority, unable to keep up with the subtle relational nuances in conversations. When she asked what just happened, I thought the same thing until I rewound the scene and watched it again. Tilly is a beautiful soul who stands in stark contrast to the stoic, stiff upper lipped command we normally see in Star Trek. She resonates with so many of us, and in my eyes is written and portrayed perfectly. Nicole, I couldn't agree more. Tilly is my hands down favorite character on Star Trek Discovery.
And Nicole, thank you so much for writing. And I love how you say that Tilly isn't being written poorly, or that her character is missing the mark in humor. And that you point out, like, if you laugh, great. And if you don't, that's an awkward moment. And that happens. That's real life. And I just thank you so much for your comment.
Yeah, for sure. I agree completely. She's not written poorly. She's written perfectly. And I think for a lot of people, whether they're on the spectrum or not, I think just people who are even awkward in social situations or are clumsy or just have a tendency to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, I think Tilly is for them. And really, I think she says a lot about Star Trek. I think she says a lot about the possibilities that are available for people in the future, that you don't have to be stiff upper lipped or coordinated. Or I talked to my daughter about the fact that, Tilly isn't, a physically perfect, like, female specimen with the perfect measurements. And, she doesn't have, physically the perfect physique. But she represents, a normal human being who has gone into Starfleet, who is trying to better herself and better society and explore the stars. And she says to normal people that, hey, guess what? You can do this. And I love her.
Yeah,
I love her for that.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed. Well, I was surprised. We had some questions and complaints. I really was surprised by the number of complaints that we had, actually. I sort of expected it last week, but this week it caught me off guard. So let's get started. Kate Linford says, overall, I enjoyed the episode, though I probably missed a lot given the pace and how densely packed it was. A couple of things are niggling at me, though. 1, why is Burnham always whispering? My husband pointed this out, and now, like spinning cameras and lens flares, I'm noticing it nonstop. It's driving me nuts. Number 2, is Culber the only doctor? I was so confused why he would be asked to be involved after what he recently been through. Number 3, time crystal. I couldn't shut my husband up about how absurd and dumbed down Trek this seemed to be. Number 4, if you suspect Burnham is the Red Angel, why would you then include her in the plans to capture the Red Angel, therefore giving said angel advanced knowledge of what you are planning from having experienced it in the past? Time travel paradox? That's enough picking holes, though. I'm enjoying the show and a little bit more each week. It's been a slow but gradual improvement each week, I feel. Well, thank you, Kate. And I think all great questions.
Yeah, very good question. I will say to number 4, for me, that's exactly why Spock had to pull the phaser and take this thing to its absolute conclusion. Because I think he knew that anything less than Burnham's death was not going to draw the Red Angel out. Period. Paul A. Brooks. Y'all, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills reading some of the comments in this thread. It was a bad hour of television. Like, really bad and nonsensical and ridiculous. Clear your heads, Trekkers. The actors definitely do very well with the material given to them. It's just too bad that the material is a hot, hot mess. That being said, I'm happy to see that a lot of Star Trek fans have remained upbeat and optimistic about Disco. Maybe they'll find their groove in season 3. Well, thank you for your comment and your complaint, Paul. I think you make some fair points.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of listeners are like, oh, they finally found their groove for season 2. And we still have listeners that's like, oh, okay, I'm going to hope for season 3.
I'm one that thinks that they've definitely found their groove here in season 2. However, there have been moments, and this episode, as I said at the top of Postcards, I think was one of those that it was. I think someone had just one of the comments we just read talked about it, packing a lot in, and there was a lot packed in this episode, and it did feel a little disjointed. I felt like I was watching 3 or 4 little vignettes that were kind of pulled apart and almost like a puzzle that's kind of scattered on the table that needed kind of put together and didn't quite get put together the way it was supposed to. However, that being said, I thought there were powerful scenes in this episode. That I don't think that it's so much the acting as it is just I think the writing's good. I think they need to work on how they storyboard and put some of these episodes together.
Yeah, fair point. Aaron M.D. Mays says, I was quite disappointed. It felt like the Friday episode of a cheesy soap opera. Long lost mom. Burnham wasn't responsible for her mom's death. Conniving women flirting with men. Well, Aaron, thank you so much. And I too am getting a soap opera vibe. And I think it's just because I'm missing my episodic TV.
For sure. For sure. Tune in next week for another episode of Star Trek Discovery. Jacelyn Mantell says, while there were some really nice parts of this episode, Admiral helps Hugh, Michael and Spock have a heart-to-heart, and Spock sticking to Michael's plan, not just logic, but also loyalty. The overall writing wasn't great, especially compared to past episodes. They jumped the Red Angel reveal too quickly. I thought it might be MB going into this episode, but changed my mind as soon as they had proof it was her. It didn't take me long to guess it was her biological mother. The clues were all there. I was laughing with crazy glee to my husband when the theory became fact. It's a neat twist, but now I'm left feeling like, where do we go from here? I'm a bit let down by this part of the plot, but I still love that they brought us Pike, Spock, and Hugh.
Clara Jean Cook says, I'm probably in the minority here, but interestingly, I feel the same way about Star Trek Discovery right now as I did about the X-Files revival. 2 franchises I adore that perhaps don't translate so well to the fast pace of modern television. I wanted both to slow down and show more character development. This week's episode was one that I struggled with the most. I enjoyed many episodes this season. I really love Star Trek, and I'm so glad it is on TV, but I knew that I wasn't enjoying it as much when I failed to feel emotionally touched by the emoting on screen. I think I need more character development to fill that. And at the moment for me, there is a lot of plot and fast-paced action. I'm not giving up, though. I'm always grateful for new Star Trek. Clara, thank you for your point. Mike, I am interested when people say, I need more character development. When I feel if you look at previous incarnations of Star Trek, we didn't get character development. We knew their character by the stories that were told.
Yeah. And I would just say to Clara and to other fans that feel this way, please stick with it, because I think character development happens over time. And something that I will give Discovery credit for is that they have brought the series light years from where they were in season 1. And that's so typical of Star Trek. I go back and I watch season 1 of The Next Generation and I cringe sometimes. This first season of DS9 and I cringe sometimes at those episodes. And it's not until we get to the second, third, and fourth season of those series is that I start to feel connection, and I start to feel that I see glimmers of those characters for who I know they are. And so Clara, just stick with it and trust me on this. They're going to continue to develop these characters over time. And I think when you get to the end of this thing, whenever that is, and hopefully it's many, many years in the future. I think you're going to be like the rest of us, and you're going to be sad to see it go. And you're going to feel like these characters were, good friends that you invited into your home week after week. I just give it time. Ryan P. Mallet says, I've been very pleased with Disco this season. This episode just didn't work for me, though. The dialogue really pulled me out of the story through the entire episode. If future Burnham is the Red Angel, should she be excluded from all knowledge of trapping the Red Angel, since she will then just remember how they are planning to trap her? Did I miss something? This was Spock's brain of Disco. Ouch. I guess no show's perfect. I agree with some
fired.
of that, but I'm a Spock's brain fan, so ouch,
I
Ryan.
like it too.
I hate it when people hate on Spock's brain.
I know. Well, Reese Morgan writes, Discovery has achieved what I think is a true, if niche, achievement this week. The most hilarious funeral on TV. The characters' hyper-dramatized, cringe-worthy speeches were difficult to sit through, but Saru's singing brought tears to my eyes along with laughter. I also look forward to the inevitable Marvel crossover. Instead of sci-fi, we now have time crystals. The comment, what just happened, from Tilly after the Stamets Joe gay non-binary talk didn't quite emphasize how terribly forced it was. Colbert is distractingly dressed like he's going out to a wine bar. There's that comment. It's also sad to see that the character subtly is as dead in the time period as Humpback Whales. I'm sad to say that most of my longtime Trekkie friends have quit with Discovery, and I may have to join them soon. Please try harder. Now, I just wanted to say, Reese, interesting. I'm glad that you are sticking through with it. And James Cross and Reese had really a great dialogue going back and forth between their sharing differing opinions. They did not once name call, were rude to each other, or nasty. And again, listeners, I just wanted to point out, I love the Babel Conference. Thank you all for your comments. Everyone's opinion are welcome. I mean, absolutely. And I hope that everyone feels that this is a safe place to share, even if your comments do make it up in my questions and concerns.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I will say that, definitely a lot of respect for the positive debate, I think, that takes place in the Babel Conference. And I love the way that we're able to disagree with one another and still appreciate each other as fans. And thank you so much, Reese, for that comment.
Yes. Well, let's get to our final thoughts. And Justin Ozer, I'm just love the man. I podcast with him on Earl Grey. And he reminds me a lot like me when I go to teach math, and every unit, I'm like, this is my favorite unit to teach. And my kids just roll their eyes at me. So Justin says, now that I've had a chance to do a rewatch of the episode, just wow. This is one of the best episodes in all of Star Trek. Amy, I know I've said this with episodes before, but Discovery keeps bringing us episodes that are just that good. The mix of moments that made me laugh and moments that made me cry, of which there were a good number, was amazing because that's so hard to pull off. I want the next episode right now because I'm so incredibly excited for the rest of the season. So, Justin, yes, this is obviously one of your best. I'm surprised to hear you say best of all Star Trek.
Sure.
I've heard you say best of the season, but this one, wow. Yeah. So, Mike, how do you think that the fans responded to the Red Angel?
Well, it's a mixed bag, and I heard a lot of my own thoughts in some of the comments that we read on today's postcards. It was a mixed bag. I think that there are definitely some fans out there that are loving what's happening. I think there are some fans who are a little bewildered by what's going on here in the second season of Star Trek Discovery. And I think that there were some fair comments. Some of them were a little ouch, that whole Spock's brain thing. I'm still hurting from that one. That was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fans overall liked it. Definitely, some negatives, but I just think you're going to get that, especially, when you try and put down your thoughts, you're going to analyze the episode a little bit differently than just a regular watch. You know what I mean? So I think people then start getting their little nitpicks and, they just sort of get put into the thread. But I really think overall, fans really enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. And it's tough too, because we look at these episodes as episodes, and really we're not writing Star Trek in an episodic way anymore. So I think it's really hard to judge an episode on its own, standing alone, in the way we tell stories today through television. So I'm really interested to see what twists and turns they bring over the next 4 episodes and how they set things up for the 3rd season and for that matter, Section 31. And I think that we'll find that some of the things that they're setting up here, quite possibly could at least play into where they go with the Captain Picard series as well. I'm interested to see, even though they're, a couple hundred years apart on the timeline. I think we'll be surprised at the way they kind of move some of the themes of Star Trek Discovery into the Captain Picard series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, be sure to check out the network's coverage of Star Trek Discovery. You've got Live from the Edge, airs on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, so you can watch Bruce and Brandy ask questions live, and that will be released as a podcast on Saturday mornings. Our commentary will be available as Tracks from the Edge with our wonderful Mike and Max. And of course, you can catch full analysis on the Edge main show with Patrick and a surprise guest because I'm not doing it this week. But to wrap up the coverage, join us from Notes from the Edge for links between Discovery and the broader franchise with Chris Jones, which will probably be released at the end as a retrospective. And you can find all of these on the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek.fm master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery, and the best place to do that is the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook, where I will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM, or send us an email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and select The Edge. That will come right to me. So, Mike, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, as you mentioned at the top of Postcards, I am one half of the duo for Metatrek's Trek FM show on Star Trek and philosophy. Along with my co-host, Zachary Fruling, we talk about philosophy through the lens of Star Trek. Should have a new episode dropping next week, so look forward to that. I'm also on Facebook. That's where I'm most active. I certainly enjoy talking about Star Trek and philosophy in the Babel Conference. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is at cmichael1701. I'm also on Instagram, cmichael1701. Also my website, cmichaelmorrison.com. Or for my book, it's Hannah Goodhart, and that's Goodhart, Goodheart, goodheart.com. You can follow along with what's going on, what the latest news is with the release of my book, Hannah Goodhart and the Guardian of Time, coming out in October.
Yes, October.
Yeah, excited.
So last time that you were on, that was 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that where are we at now in the production? Like you had done some recent, I don't know. Tell us again.
Yeah. So the book is in the editing phase, going to layout. From there, it'll actually go into production. The cover is in production as we speak. Really excited about that. I had a really fun meeting this past week getting things set up for our launch party, which will take place in Dallas at a planetarium. I can't release which planetarium just yet, but I'm really excited. We're going to do that in a planetarium because Hannah Goodhart is a recreational stargazer, so it's going to be fun. They're going to put together a custom planetarium show for us. in which they're going to take our guests out to Ursa Minor, which is where some of the action in the book takes place on a planet in the Ursa Minor area of space. So they're putting together a custom show. I'm geeking out just thinking about it. It's going to be so much fun. And I've got a contest going on right now. Shameless plug here. If you go to cmichaelmorrison.com under the contact and sign up for my mailing list, we're going to select one lucky person who joins my time troop. That's my fan group. That one lucky person will receive a Hannah Goodhart swag bag that'll include lots of really, really cool Hannah Goodhart swag, a signed copy of the book, a ticket to the launch party, and some really other cool stuff that I can't even begin to list off. It's going to be pretty cool.
Mike, that is so amazing. I'm so happy. And what an amazing launch party. That sounds fun. I want to fly out to Dallas just to attend.
It's going to be so fun.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so happy. And just best of luck for all of that coming up in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, you can find me here on the network where I co-host The Edge main show with Patrick, except not this week. I also co-host Earl Grey with Richard Marquez and Justin Ozer, which is about the next generation. You can also find me on the Fandom Podcast Network, co-hosting Discoville, where we discuss the Orville and Discovery with my good friends Haley Stoddart, Kyle Wagner, and Kevin Reitzel. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place is on the Babel Conference. Now, if you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer, visit patreon.com/TrekFM for all the details. And I would like to thank our current associate producers. They are Norman Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner, Ryan Mallett, Chris Trabuzio, and Brian Malosh. Thank you for supporting Trek FM and especially The Edge. Well, Mike, it has been a pleasure again having you back on Postcards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So much fun. Thank you so much.
Join us next week for another episode of Postcards from the Edge. Hailing frequencies open.